Hey guys, good evening. This is Simon with Trade and Perform Coaching, doing the kind of the review of the different levels that I posted on both Twitter and StockTwits last night for today, right? So the goal of this is simply to explain the role that anomalies play in profiles, right? So I just want to kind of take a second to break down the charts and explain how this worked and then look at the price action, right? So this is the chart. This is the chart that I post, right? And what we are focused on are the yellow zones, right? So this is yellow zone. Usually there's a support resistance block posted up within it. This is a yellow zone. And this is a yellow zone, right? So those yellow zones, I expect them when and if they get hit to give tradable counter rotations when and if that occurs, right? I expect that to be able to be tagged and to get a setup somewhere in that location, right? The next most important areas on this chart, actually the most important area here is this location right here. It's the prior days, I use both volume profile and TPO charting. It's the prior days point of control. It can be very choppy and difficult to trade in that area. A good example of that would be that if you look overnight, we pushed into the point of control, right? You think, oh, well, that's a great short, but then it comes down and it pushes right back through it. And then if you try to long in that area, it did give a little counter rotation, but then it pushed straight down through, right? So this is the one area where I want to try to avoid taking trades. It saves a lot of capital. It can be frustrating at times because sometimes it simply doesn't it doesn't fall out of that location, right? Sometimes you will get trades that come out of here. Sometimes they'll chop for hours. Sometimes it just goes straight through. The point is it's hard to predict what will happen in this area. So I just try to stay out of it completely, right? So this is an area I don't want to trade in. And usually it's marked off with a sign that says POC, right? Stay out of this specific location, right? And then give me just one second. We have other important areas, right? And the other important areas are a prior day's low, right? That was Friday's low. A prior day's low. I don't know what date that was from, but that's a prior day's low right down here. And this 13606, it was green and dashed. I think this went all the way back to last Tuesday, but it was also a prior day's low. So these are important, not necessarily. So you'll often look for a trap below the prior session's low. That would be normal for me to look for, right? But I also, more importantly, when we get to an old prior day's low, I look for counter rotations. You can see below that prior day's low, counter rotation, below this prior day's low, counter rotation. And then lastly, I mark off single prints. You'll see a lot of people on StockTwits and Twitter and in the FinTwit world talk about single prints. When markets are really, really strong, single prints work. When they are not at their strongest, single prints can be a very difficult place to trade because and this goes back to one of those 50-50 things, right? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And all I'm trying to do in my trading is highlight and identify the places where trading simply works for me, where I get paid, right? And where I start off of is from the larger time frame, or at least I try to start from there, right? And then I work my way down to lower time frames. So if we erase all this, right? And if I got, and then lastly are these light blue areas. These are areas of general weakness, right? So they're an anomaly. You can get a counter rotation at that area, but they are likely to get traded through. So again, the focus tends to be at either yellow zones or at key locations where I know those were prior days lows or prior days highs. They tend to act as a trap. So let's look at this chart and then get rid of all the weak areas. Oh, and then the pink lines are value area high, value area low, right? So let's get rid of all the areas I don't want to trade in. And this is what the chart starts to look like. So we're going to Click this. And we're going to get rid of everything that I don't think is pretty critically important on this chart. And it looks like this. Excuse me, there is a zone there. Didn't mean to erase that. All right, let's get rid of that and just put this back. Get rid of this, get rid of this, get rid of this, right? And then these, I'd get rid of this, and I'd get rid of this. That leaves me with the zones that I find most interesting to trade, right? And if you look at how that kind of worked itself through for today, right? So if you first look overnight, right? So if we go from Sunday evening, there's all my support resistance that I post and all that good stuff. So if I go from Sunday evening, and again, if the focus is just on areas I want to trade. Now look how that works. So this is overnight into the yellow zone. Rotation down, back to Friday's low. From Friday's low, back to the yellow zone. Second time in is always weaker. Above, backside test the yellow zone, holds, travels to the next yellow zone. Rejection the first time, rejection the second time. Then U.S. session opens, right? U.S. session, we trade finally through the yellow zone to Friday's high and right to the beginning of the next support resistance area where we fail. Now notice, there's no support resistance here. See, if I just simply rip this out, I just go, this is not a location for me. That's the easiest way to view that. This is not a location for me, right? I then get to support. They try to counter rotate there. It fails, right? It fails. It then pushes through below prior day's low, straight down to a prior session's low. I forget what day's low that is. It has to be Tuesday or Wednesday. Finds responsive buyers the first time in. They bounce it. They attempt to trap. They can't hold it back in. Push it down below, I think that's Tuesday's low. Again, finds responsive buyers, right? Back all the way up to a 50-60 retrace. If you look at this, it looked like this from high to low. $50-60 retrace, gets to the 50, can't make it to the 62 or the yellow zone. That's where everyone sold it, right? And then it rolls back over, and then we just kind of flop around. We've been flopping around here in Asia. They just haven't done a whole lot, right? Basically, we're trading this larger 50-60 against this smaller 50-60, right? Which is what we've pushed back into. And my guess is eventually, though I don't know how, my guess is somewhere between now and sometime tomorrow, we'll push into this zone and then trap back against today's low is one potential trade and push. And if that doesn't happen, right? If that doesn't happen, then, and that fails, the next target down, because these are all single prints, is a push below here and a trap back in, and then a push down in here, and hopefully a push back up, right? So those are kind of all the areas of potential that we have, right? They're the areas of potential, but they, but if you look and you focused on today's key areas, right, you would have been looking for a short up here, both here and here, potential long here, but when this failed, your next target was to see if there was a setup below Friday's low, below that, I think that was Tuesday's low, and then finally below, I think that was Monday's low, right? And it couldn't quite make it down here. This would have been my prime target for a long. It just didn't get there, right? And all of that is fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that being the setup, right? So anyways, that's my 2 cents about that. And yeah, we'll see what tomorrow brings. I'll post the charts up shortly, but if I was going to focus, I'd focus on looking for setups. And of course, I don't want to make the video super long, so I actually have a process within these areas of where I'm looking for a trade. And long story short, I didn't have the greatest days. I didn't have the worst of days. I just I got flustered. I didn't get the short up here. And I certainly didn't get it in size. I got some kind of short off up here, but I didn't get it in size, and I certainly didn't picture that that was going to be a roll down from 13,770 to 13,600. That was a pretty fat trade, and I didn't capture it, and this was just not the easiest trading in here. It got pretty choppy, so my day kind of was like, not bad, not good, just kind of like, I wish I'd gotten another shot at that. And I wish I had gotten a shot down here for the long. That's what I really would have liked for a pushback to the mid, and it just never came along. So all of that is cool with me. I'll just move on to tomorrow. There's a million ways to get it, right? And that short up there was one. So anyways, I'll talk to you all later, guys. That's how I use the zones to set up my trades. I will post these later tonight, and we will go from there. If you are struggling with trading or you'd like some just be part of the room, hit me up, right? You send me an email at TRADEnPerform, TRADENPERFORM @gmail.com, and I'll be happy to send you a 3-day pass and or a information about membership to the room. Anyways, have a great night, guys. I will talk to you all later.